Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Raid and Trade regionals that happened post restriction list. They've had like an event every weekend since like July 15th, so this is their third one, last one of July, and it does have the new restriction list. It's 1,000 people, and it does have this breakdown that we see here today. So a couple of things. First, shouts to Raid and Trade for publishing their list. It's on their Facebook, so I do appreciate that, as well as for getting the live stream. So that's on their Twitch right now if you guys want to see. It's linked in this page, which is linked in the description as well as all of their other events that's happened this month and every other OP03 event in the English version of this game that we have right now. So anyways, going into this top 16, again, it was 1,000 players. So I think technically like top 32 get invites, but we got only the top 16 for this one. And it was with the new restrictions again for the Newgate, for the Marco, and for the Rad Beam. And we did have the North American one for Core TCG also happening at the same time. And for our event, we did have a lot more of like Newgate, I think, present for this one. This looks honestly more of what I expect it more to look like post restriction, in the sense of like, Newgate is present, but not like super duper present. We did have Trafalgar Law win this event. Zoro's obviously still around, and then a couple Linlins, a Rob Lucci, a Katakuri, a Doffy, an Ace, which I think was a little bit surprising for me, as well as Uses Captain Kid. I didn't think that Ace was going to top ever again, but it looks like I was wrong on that one. So we're going to look at the top placing list for each one of these leaders, starting off with our first place list. So here is the Trafalgar Law, and I don't have a lot to say about this one. I swear I put like this exact deck list in at least once or twice before. There's not a lot of variety with Trafalgar Law anymore. I think all the entire card pool is understood of which cards you're running. A little bit of decision making for some. I think Vista is probably more of an indicator that you're not thinking that you're going to see as much Newgate, so you do have a lot more targets that Vista does hit, kind of with Nico Robin as well. Three Zoros. We also have the Film Brook, which I like adding in my Trafalgar Law, but not everyone's doing it. The 4 drops, one of the Rush Luffy, Rad Beam, and then all of your little drops that we're pretty much standardized using this half right here. So honestly, at this point, we have like probably 75 to 80% of the deck understood for most of it. We do have some decision points on ratios for the top end, but bottom end's pretty understood, and that's what we have here. So that is our Trafalgar Law, and then next up we have the Newgate for this event. So obviously, we did get a lot of pieces missing for this one, but this is kind of revolving to what a lot of people, including the North American finalists, did, where they put like the Strawbeard back together, they dusted it off, and guess what? It's still a really, really good deck, because guess what? Most of the decks weren't running Marcos, they weren't running the 9-drop Newgate. Like, this one's not even running the one copy that you can be running of it, and Rad Beam at 1 is fine, because you can run the guard point at 4, which they would be running somewhere between 5 and 7 anyway. So just having 5 on the low end is fine. Adding a couple new blockers, including the Fossa there, and then kind of our top end is just running the 7-drop Ace. Since this does have Rush, it does have like the good value of being able to get stuff into -3k, so you can also trade favorably into some stuff, which is really, really nice, really solid card for you. And also the Thatch, which is just an 8k, which is a real menace to get rid of. So a lot of people, we're going to talk about Zoro too, are not running these Marcos at 4 of anymore. I think like 2 or 3 copies, which makes sense. You'd rather just have more of your turn 4 play, since you will be going there. And then if you are on turn 6, you kind of want to play Thatch as well. But do think the deck is still a menace a little bit, still very strong, and we're gonna have to see if anything happens in Newgate again afterwards. But I don't think so. I think it's in a fine spot for right now. We'll see if that changes in the next couple weeks. So anyways, going into our Zoro topping list, we do have the pretty low to the ground one. This is, I'd say, incredibly low to the ground. No Ace, none of the Newgates, not even one, but it has just a bunch of like the event cards, but no Fire Fist either, which is really unusual. I know a lot of people are running Fire Fist in the sense of wanting to take out Trafalgar Law, which I think is probably, Zoro and Law I think are still the best 2 decks right now. Maybe Newgate is still in the top 3, to be honest, but without Fire Fist, it's interesting, especially since we're not running, we are running 4 whole copies of Gordon being able to use its effect to put it to the bottom of your deck, give something -3k, so you can put stuff in range of usually Fire Fist, but it looks like it's just for the Marco for this one. I guess Jet Pistol as well, which can be get rid of out of an 8k 9k, which is great. And then just some other events, since we are playing the Buggy. Also running the Red Hawk, so this is a bit of a, your opponent has to play into it somewhat, but it does let you give something, pop something 4K or less. So maybe that's kind of like the idea instead of using Fire Fist, just playing this when they have, they can't avoid it essentially. So that is my kind of idea there, but still very aggressive. A lot of good searches at the low end, and then kind of some disruption with your event cards. So this is the topping Zoro list here, and the next up we have kind of the yellow block. So we do have Linlin, which did get into the top 4, which is really cool. A lot of people are between Linlin and Katakuri, and I still think Linlin is more the play style for me right now. The getting the 7K is not as important with the one Dawn from Katakuri, especially since there's a lot of times where you just don't have time to do it very often. And being able to use Linlins to just kind of fix your life, I think, is fantastic. Some of the best cards I'd say are Shirahoshi, as well as sometimes the Thunderbolt, which just essentially forces you to pop something, which is great. And then yellow doesn't have, again, it's the smallest card pool compared to everything else, so nothing too crazy here, but that is what we've got. So that is kind of what we're looking at, and then also we do have the Katakuri, which we'll go into real quick. You'll see that there's not a lot of difference between the two, kind of like different ratios on the high end, which, again, I'm very surprised that this Katakuri is running 4 of the Linlin 7 drops too, that like, all the Katakuris that do well are just super greedy with this. We're not even running a lot of Shirahoshis to maybe unclump our hand in case there is a bunch of it, but I think this is a bit wild having this much, and then a bunch of event cards too. So kind of wild to see this one doing that, but there we are there. Next up, we have Rob Lucci, one of my favorite, if not my favorite leader right now. At least it's the one I consistently go to a lot. It does have a lot of potentially good matchups. You do have to go second, which is kind of important, but just the fact that you are able to get some really good tempo, a lot of good momentum on your side, and you have a lot of great removal. So, always like the Kaku's fantastic for you. Sakazuki can sometimes do that too. If you just play like a Kuzan on turn 2 and your opponent's just going to be afraid to play anything because you know that you can attack with Kuzan, use Kaku's effect, get rid of something that costs 7 or less, or even Sakazuki to get something essentially 9 or less. So very good. And then Isho for some of your longer matchups, this can be fantastic for that. And it's on, Dawn times 1 effect, being able to give stuff in range for Kaku again is very good. So like all this stuff, it's very, very good. And I've been playing this deck a lot. So the only thing I like is the 2-drop Meteor Impact, but Impact Wave is still very good too. So here's the list there, and then next up we have Doffy, which I will be kind of bold to say that most Doffy lists look pretty close to this one. I think this is, and that's not too crazy since it is essentially a set 1 deck. We haven't got a lot of support outside of set 1 besides the Jinbei, which we are running at 3 copies. And I think 3 or 4 copies of Jinbei are where it's at. If you don't have, I think like 1 or 2 is kind of good because there is so much Zoro and Law, but don't feel bad like you can't play this deck if you don't have 4 copies of it. Even if you only have like 1 copy, just run it, you're fine. This deck is very good at what it does, getting a lot of momentum, especially if you get into like a 6K Gecko Moria, being able to use that to kind of prevent your opponent from swing into this very easily. And then also if you have Kuma with the Pacifista, being able to, your opponent just like will never want to swing into this because it will bump up into a 6K, and that kind of feels good as well. So I like this deck. I think it's great. It is a little bit dependent on seeing your stuff on curve when you need to, but if you do, you are able to get a lot of success with it. So there is the Doffy list. Again, I've been playing something almost identical to this one and seeing some success, and also seeing it with success in the North American meta as well. It's a solid pick, I think, right now. So there we are there. Next up, we have Ace, which again, I did not expect this to top ever again, at least in the OP03 meta, since I feel like it got hit the hardest on the ban list, unfortunately, but we are still getting there with more of a, I'd say, low to mid-range version of the deck here. So we do have like the Otamas, Makinos, Izos, Buggy, Haruta. We also have a couple cards I didn't know exist, like the 3/5 Whitebeard Pirate. So this could just be like a good value play if you have to go first and get that kind of there. I think you want to go first most times anyways, but again, just having a 3-drop 5K is good in the deck. And we have some Speed Jill for vanillas and our Marcos and such, and then just a couple of events with the Seaquake, Whitebeard Pirates, Crossfire, Fire Fist, and the 4 copies of Flame Emperor, which is a little extra, but it is a very good card and does have some good removal, so I can see why 4 is like very tempting, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen people run more than 3. 4 seems excessive, but hey, it worked. You got top 16, and congratulations. And then lastly, we have Eustace Captain Kid with the film engine, and I really don't know if anyone's just playing the original engine anymore, but the film engine's still very good in this leader. Some key points to mention too is that we are using the Krieg, the Krieg for this again, and we do have like just it is a moderately cheap deck. We do have like just Nami being able to get the card advantage from you on play, and then also, if you go if you go second, you're able to play this on 4, draw a card with it, and then on turn 6, you can play a 4 or 5 drop, and then use the Nami effect again to draw when attacking. So the cycle there is good. No counter, obviously, but very good in that regard. And then the 7 drop Luffy. So I also want to mention that there's not Bartholomew, the promo in there, so you can still do well with this deck without it. I know that card is really tempting since it is a film card. It's also Supernova, and it has a good effect that synergizes really well with your 7 drop Luffy, or a lot of your other cards that you want to just restand and maybe keep around. But I do think, again, you do not need it if you do not have it. So there we go. Congratulations to our Eustace Kid player here. And that is going to be it for us. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like these breakdowns, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. There will be more in the future. And again, thank you to Raid and Trade for running the event, putting out the deck list, and for hosting a stream as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.